Hey guys, you came back. Aw, you came back to me. I'm touched. Yeah, so I guess that means that the first week wasn't too bad. I think it went alright. A lot of ums, a lot of uhs, a lot of stumbling around, but I got most of the info out that I wanted to. And again, it's just a work in progress, you know? Um, I'm pretty happy. Just the fact that I'm actually getting these done is the important thing. I've been procrastinating on it for a while. Yeah, I was doing a little bit of planning on where I wanted it to go, but for the most part, I was just putting it off. And it just feels good to be actually banging these out, getting these done, you know? Um, and again, those are just going to be intro episodes. I'm going to really do deep dives more as the weeks go on. And yeah, like I said, I've been thinking about, you know, which ones I want to tackle first. Um, which, as of right now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do for my very first animal. Like I said, I think it might be, one of the more common ones: hamster, guinea pig, fish, parakeet. Um, Fish, I don't know if I'm going to have to break it up or if I'm just going to have to do the basics and kind of let you discover it on your own because um, there's just so much to it. You know, it's not just a bowl. So before I get into this, I'm going to do my nonprofit ad read. So today's episode is not brought to you by the Truffle Lady NH. So Shannon, she's a friend. She lives right down the road, and she makes these gorgeous, yummy, just absolutely tasty truffles. I mean, how much detail do I really have to get into? I mean, the truffles, they're delicious. Treat yourself every once in a while. Um, I'm mainly doing this ad read next just so I have an excuse to eat one of these. Because technically I should be waiting until after dinner, but I don't know if you can see that, but that is a little bit of actual strawberry right in the inside. She got so many different flavors. I do want to finish that, but I also hate how it sounds when people eat on camera. So I'm gonna try and spare you that. I don't know if you guys are that way. I absolutely can't stand the sound. I mean, and there seems to be so many podcasts where they're like, "Oh, hey, I got this from this place. You want to try some?" And then it's all you can hear for a couple minutes, and it's just a nightmare. So, um, but yeah, they're great. They're delicious. You know, uh, we get a box of them for Valentine's Day, and I'll be honest, I hate white chocolate. I can't stand it. It's not even chocolate, and she does it just right, where it's just the coating, just the casing, just enough to give you that sweetness, and then you're mostly tasting what's inside. So I can actually eat white chocolate, but only when if it's from the Truffle Lady NH. That's the Truffle Lady November Hotel on Facebook.com. Check her out. You won't regret it. They're just delicious, and now that's staring at me because I didn't finish it, and I'm probably going to eat it at some point during the rest of this podcast. I'm not going to lie. Get a little bit of water. You drinking enough water? You know you're not. You should take whatever your body weight is, divide it in half, convert that to ounces, and that's how many. That's how much water you should be drinking in a day. So I know you're not drinking enough. It's crazy how much we need to drink, and yeah, if you're really thirsty, it tastes. It's refreshing, but it literally tastes like nothing. I mean, I don't get sponsored by Liquid IV, but that's such a huge one, and for podcasters to pimp out because it literally helps make the water more hydrating and actually taste good. I mean, it's a vital source of life. You'd think that it would taste like the most delicious thing in the world. Like if you find some really clean, really pure water, you think that would hit some kind of water taste bud where you're just like, oh my god, get some more of this in me. But no, and it's probably our own fault. We probably do too many sugars and stuff, and we just maybe we did used to have a water tasting taste, but I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just rambling at you. But yeah, like I said, I'm really kind of happy with how the first week went. Mostly just because I got it done. Not a huge fan of all the ums and ahs. I really got to try and retrain myself. It was something that I got really good at when I was doing theater, where if I forgot a line, you just don't. say anything, you make it seem like it was a dramatic pause, but now whenever I try and do that, it just sound like I'm William Shatner as James Kirk, where I sound like I'm hesitating at the wrong times, or maybe my feed is cutting in and out. It just doesn't sound natural yet. But I'll get there. I'll get there, and I'll try and save you guys from all of my ums and ahs, because you throw 80 of them in a half hour, and I know it probably was just driving you batty, and I appreciate you sticking with me. Those of you that are actually listening to this, I could just be talking to the ether, but I gotta watch myself. I'd sound like Bill Burr too much because anytime that he has a word that ends with a R sound, he always goes into his Boston one, but he emphasizes it for comedy effect, and I naturally do sometimes drop my R's, and so I always hear Bill Burr when I'm doing that, and I really need to find my own new unique voice. Unique. I stumbled on that one. That's fine. My own unique voice. There's got to be something that sets me apart that makes you guys keep coming back to me. I mean, unless you've just literally watched every other podcast and I'm all that's left and you're just scraping at the bottom of the barrel, I need something that is gonna, you know, I need to find my own voice. And again, like I said in the previous episode, the only way to do that is by starting to talk. You can't find your voice till you talk. So here I am talking at you. How have you been? Honestly, genuinely, I do wonder sometimes if whoever's watching this, how they're doing at this point in their life. I mean, clearly you have some free time in your hands if you're listening to my ugly mug. So that's good for you. That's some downtime. Downtime's important. Try and make sure you balance it though. I see some people they can't stay still in their downtime, and good God, that's just going to give you a hernia or a hemorrhoid or hair loss or some other horrible H word, before it's time. You need downtime. It's important. So hopefully you're listening to this either during some downtime or if you're jogging right now, good for you. Good for you putting the miles in. That's something that I definitely go for walks with the dog, but I've always hated running, and I hate how necessary it is for longevity. It's a nightmare. When I had to do physical PT, the 2 mile jogs, those were the absolute least favorite part. I would usually end up spitting up almost every time, and yeah, it's probably one of my least favorite exercises to do. I actually quite enjoy push-ups when my wrist isn't killing me. I love doing sit-ups. I used to be able to do quite a few sit-ups, mostly because there wasn't a lot of upper mass to be having go up and down, so I was actually good at it. But no, jogging was always the absolute worst. And I honestly don't even like hiking either because it's like, well, now it just took me 3 hours to cover a distance that I probably could have covered in less time if I was jogging. You just can't win. You can't win. Did you jog there and now you feel like you want to spit up, or did you walk there and now half the day's gone? I mean, you can't win. So I don't know. I got to get better about doing that. Thankfully, at least having the dog makes me, go out on regular walks, and that at least is important. Plus, my current job has me getting the steps in too. But I'm transitioning to what's going to be more sedentary. Sedentary. It's a desk job, is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to be sitting a lot, and so it should be something like sedentary, instead. Anyway, so I definitely need to get into doing some regular exercise, and if you haven't been, then so should you. Especially when you start getting to be around my age, you need to have already been working out, because if you suddenly, hit old age and then you start to, all you're gonna do is hurt yourself. I mean, you get up to a certain age, even if you have been working out the whole time, it's just maintenance, and the older you get, the less you're able to maintain it. So you really need to start at a pretty decent baseline so that by the time you get older, you haven't lost too much of it. But starting it early and starting it often so that your body is used to the impacts, is used to the elevated, blood rate and breathing and all anaerobic, aerobic, all that stuff, all those big fancy words that I like to try and spout out so I sound more intelligent than I actually am. I don't know. But yeah, there's always stuff you can improve on. Oh my God, like, so as of me making this right now, I am a smoker. Boo, bad me. And it was just funny when I got furloughed and I was in quarantine. Me and my girl were like, all right, well, let's make something useful out of this. Like let's get some house chores done. Let's get putting on a workout video a day. I should quit smoking. We should, and so we ended up doing we did a little bit of that, but mostly what we ended up doing was starting on a diet, which was awesome. I'll get into that at some point because they're not an unofficial sponsor, but it's definitely something where it's an anti-inflammatory elimination diet, and out of it, out of everything that I've heard, anti-inflammatory is so important right now. If you get sick and you're already inflamed, it's going to be a lot worse of a ride. So if you're on a kind of a meal plan that you are already, trying to keep your inflammation down as much as possible, then yeah, when you get sick, what do? You get inflamed. So if you're already inflamed, you can just only get more inflamed. So I think it's just smart. If the person who wrote the book is still alive, I mean, they should go on Rogan because, I think Rogan's talked about pretty much every other diet there is. He's done keto, he's done carnivore, but I've never heard him talk about one where it specifically eliminates the foods that you test yourself on and then you see, oh, did I go up? Well, then that means that I'm reactive to it and I should probably limit the amount of times that I eat that. Oh, did I stay the same or even go down? Okay, then that isn't one I'm reactive to. I can eat that on a pretty regular basis. Good to know. It's just smart. It just makes sense. So that was one thing that we did. But one thing I really regretted that I wasn't able to do was quit smoking while I was just stuck at home for 2 months. And part of that was because it was a stressful time. So what do you do if you're a smoker and you're stressed? Well, you light one up. So that wasn't really helpful. And what's hilarious now is I'm not going to use this as an excuse, but it almost seems like a lot of the people that smoke that catch it are not having a bad time with their lungs, whereas other people that don't smoke and get it bad or like getting permanent scarring on their lungs. Like for instance, as of doing this, one of the most recent smokers that I know of that got it was Dave Chappelle, and he was asymptomatic. So I don't know what to think. I'm not going to use that as an excuse not to quit, but it also seems a little bit less imperative that I do because when it first went down, and it attacks the lungs and stuff, I was like, oh geez, well then I better get my lungs clean. Well, I've been a smoker since before it was even legal. Before and by the way, when I say it was legal, when I'm showing my age. When I was growing up, the legal smoking age was 18, and then they changed it to 21 now. That just blows my mind. That you can't drink, you can't smoke, but you can get hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt and go fight for your country. It's kind of like how you can't curse, but you can show graphic stuff. Like it's just that doesn't make any sense to me. Where, a swear word isn't as violent as violence. So I don't see what the harm is. It's it's all backwards. Why isn't war illegal? Hmm. You know, you're gonna limit the legal age of stuff, and there's no law against starting a war. I can't remember who said that. I just saw recently where it made a lot of sense. Where I was like, yeah, that's actually still a thing that you can do. Is say I'm gonna go and kill a bunch of people over there, and as long as it's under the label of war, um, anyway, it's violence is not the answer. Is what I'm trying to say here. Turn into a pacifist in my older years. And I got to stop saying I'm old because then I got a bit of a baby face, and people that are much older than me are like, "Shut up, you're still young." And even the people that are slightly younger than me is just like, "Nah, that ain't that old," And tell that to my back. But anyway, so what else is new? I've been doing trying to get back into writing. Not just for comedy, but for just in general. For a while there, back in the day, I had all of these book ideas, and the premises were great. I always had great book idea premises, and I could never get more than a couple pages in before losing interest. And I really want to start working on my follow through. So this is one of the first things I'm going to hopefully actually make sure to follow through, um, not slack off on, because I always have so much energy when it comes to the start of something, but then to maintain it is always just work, and that's one of the big reasons why I don't usually finish many things. And ideally, I mean, there's not gonna be an end to this. I might just keep on doing you know helpful videos and basically journal entries. It's kind of this kind of that's kind of what this is. It's like a public journal entry. I mean, I fought it for so long. I always like to be a very, I wouldn't say secretive guy, but a very private guy. I hated how things were going with the trend of like, well, now 1984 doesn't need to happen. You don't need to have a Big Brother TV screen at you. It's more of what's another book? I think is it Stranger in a Strange Land. Basically, 1984 never had to happen because we didn't need to have our privacy forced away from us. An environment was created where we all are our own little stars, and so we don't want privacy. Like we basically just make public everything. So that's why it's hilarious, thinking that there's any secret hidden agenda program that's trying to track what you do. It, I mean, they're blatant about it. You have it on you. I mean, I'm talking to another version of it. I mean, people are taking pictures of their food. I mean, you can't even you know it's driving me nuts, this truffle. Speaking of food. All right, I'm just gonna have it. Sorry, you're gonna have to listen to me eat for a little bit. I don't know why I tried to fight it. I'll try and down it quickly so that there's not just a lot of dead air and me talking. I also don't want to talk while I'm chewing. Oh well, I can't win. I can't win. Ah, that is good. Shout out to Shannon. So, what was I saying? Yeah. So, if every single uninteresting aspect of our lives we feel that we need to share, then I don't get why people have a an issue with tracking in the first place. I mean, first of all, it's not true. Second of all, even if it is true, what do you care? But that's why one of my favorite times of the year is it's a tradition that once a week, sorry, 1 week a year, we go to this island. You can only get to it by kayak, and it's just out of range of any cell phone service. And just spending the week there, swimming, kayaking, letting the dog run off the leash. It's just beautiful, and I worry that some people in the upcoming generations that if you did that to them, they would literally have withdrawals, and that's just kind of scary. Where you know I'm glad that I kind of grew up in a time where I was a Boy Scout before it was the Scouts, and there was all these allegations and stuff. I personally never saw any of that happen. I had nothing but a good time. I still regret that I never made Eagle. I only got up to Life Scout, but you know, um, it, again, how political do I want to get into this? All right, I'm not going to really go into gun control and stuff, but I will say that having been able to handle a gun at a young age definitely made it a lot easier of a transition for when I did do my stint in the army. Definitely, uh, I never had to worry about accidentally pointing it in the wrong direction when we went onto the range and that kind of stuff because that was already instilled in me at a young age. So, I won't get into the politics of gun control. I just do think that if someone's going to be around firearms, that uh, you know, making it so instinctive that you don't even have any muscle memory of being able to look down, the wrong end of a barrel. I don't know. I don't even know why I got into that. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I was did a lot of camping when I was a kid and being out in the woods, knowing how to start a fire. I mean, it isn't. Not only is it good survival skills that you may never need to even use, but I mean, we got a wood stove right here in the house, and you know, I can easily just take a piece of birch bark and then from smaller to bigger pieces of wood, and then light that whole thing up with one match. It's easier to just use a fire starter. Throw that in there, throw some logs on top, and just good to go. But I still take great pride in being able to start a fire without needing even a single piece of paper. That was something that was always a source of pride. No paper and one match. When you're in the Scouts, and I doubt that I'll ever put myself into a situation where now I'm in freezing weather and all I have is one match on me and I mean I got a lighter. I got 1,000 matches on me if I have a lighter. But it's a very real thing, and it's also good to be prepared for the unexpected. I don't mean to be a prepper. That's a whole different thing, but I mean I think I mentioned it you know last week with Texas froze over and there was nothing as far as preparedness to go. I mean, I saw some scary, households where they found some kind of like I don't even know what it was, like some kind of blankets and stuff that they just like strewn everywhere to almost kind of like make like a little teepee kind of thing inside the house to huddle on. And it's just crazy where you know I guess I always wondered why the heck do we live in places that get this cold? I've been in New England area, most of my life. I did a stint out in the desert just to see how the other half lives, and I tell you, it's a lot easier to adjust to the desert than it is to adjust to the cold. And I'm almost eternally grateful that I was raised amongst the cold because I first of all know how to drive in it, which is huge. And I'm so glad that that was a skill that didn't leave me when I lived in the desert for 5 years because I swear that it seems like there's these people that they forget literally every year. It's just like, no, 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 this just happened last winter. Didn't you learn how to drive in it then? Or, I mean, it's scary. And as they always say, it doesn't matter how good of a driver you are, it's how good of a driver the other people on the road are. You could be driving completely fine and perfect, and they're the ones that are coming around a corner going too fast. The wheels, lose the traction. Oh my God! Just this other snowstorm, it was two cars in front of me. I saw a guy, even though we were in one of those, long, slow lines behind the plow, so it was freshly plowed, and he still managed to find a nicey spot, and he fishtailed so bad. It was so obvious that he was overcorrecting and panicking. He either slammed on the brakes or accidentally stepped on the gas harder, thinking that it was the brake. I don't know, but he clearly overcorrected, almost went off the side of the road and then came back. At the very least, though, that made the car in front of me, the car behind him, give him a little bit more space because the cars were kind of like, pretty stacked on top of each other for the conditions that we had. But yeah, I'm glad that that was kind of like riding a bike. That's a muscle memory that I still have with me, even if I went, 5 years without having to drive in the snow. Which, by the way, some people make a lot of fun of, desert drivers when it rains. But two things that they probably don't know about is flash floods. So all that dirt is just not designed, like there's not earthworms in there breaking it up and making, there's not foliage. It basically finds wherever the lowest part is, and then it just forms rivers that didn't exist before. So that part's scary because especially if you live outskirts of the town, and so even inside, I mean, even inside, the city and stuff, there's just lots of places where there's just the flash flooding. And so, you could have three different roads that you can use to drive home, and all three of them are blocked by a miniature river that wasn't there before, and you definitely can't drive through because everybody tries and everybody gets swept off, and then everybody has to get towed, and there's water damage to the car, and it just doesn't work. But also, an interesting phenomenon is so for the first 30 minutes of rain when you're in the desert, it's slick. It's slick as all S. It's if you think about it, like all of the oil and residues and all that stuff that can go on a road, especially out there. I mean, I was in Tucson. They don't even have a inspection sticker that you need. It's just emission standard. So like you could have the hood off of the car. You could be leaking oil. As long as your emissions were fine, that's literally the only inspection that you need to have done. So cars in various states of repair all over that city. So if you can picture all the oil and stuff that gets dripped onto the road. Well, so that makes the very first 30 minutes before that stuff can get washed away, makes the road very slippery. So part of it is the fact that it's like, oh my God, this only happens a few times a year. What's going on? But also, yeah, there is some genuine, extra danger to it. But it's just the same thing as snow driving. You just slow down, keep it where you can control the car. If you feel yourself start to go off control, no panic, no sudden movements, no overcorrection. Just ease it, nice and gentle. Um, I don't know if that was if anybody out there needed to know that, or if I'm basically telling them something that you either should already know that, or me telling you in a ranting video is probably not going to be the one that's just like solidifies in your head, like that's what now I'm going to be a perfectly safe driver. Nick, thank you so much for telling me stuff I either already know or I'm never going to use or I'm just going to forget again. So you're welcome, world. Yeah. So it's oh my God, have you guys ever handmade your own pizza? All right, that was another thing that we learned how to do when we were quarantined, and it's it's just the most fun ever. And that I have never been, I've never had a New York pizza. I've never been to multiple places where they claim to have the best pizza and been able to try them all. I'm sure that there's some delicious pizza places that my homemade pizza couldn't hold a candle to, but just as I imagine, I've never been hunting, but just as I imagine being able to kill, prepare, and cook, basically from death to dinner plate. I hear that there's no more satisfying feeling, being able to provide for you and your family. But um, for some reason, a hand tossed pizza. I don't know if it's because it's fresh ingredients or because you actually made it from the ball of dough to pulling it out of the oven. But there's no better taste in the world. Plus, one thing that we found out is that we can't do tomatoes, and so you either have to have somebody specially make you a white pizza, or just do it at home and you just avoid any tomato products. Um, which, by the way, um, that was something that we found kind of surprising from the diet was that probably about 85% of you out there are actually reactive to tomato and tomato sauces and pastes and all that stuff. Even if you don't know it, even if it doesn't feel like it. Um, I remember my boss was telling me one time he had gone like a 3-day fast or something. I don't remember if it was intentional or if he was hiking and he just ran out of food, but he gets into town and then he goes into a pizza place, and so he has like gets himself a pizza and he hasn't eaten in 3 days, and so he starts eating and he's like sweating and his heart is racing and like I think even his hands were swelling or whatever. It almost felt like he'd been poisoned, and so his initial thought right up until me talking to him was, oh, I haven't eaten for 3 days and now I just suddenly had all of this bread, cheese, grease, meat, and I was just like, it was probably the tomato sauce. And he goes, excuse me? In his mind, the tomato sauce was the healthiest part of the entire pizza. Like, it couldn't have been from that, right? So I told him, yeah, I almost guarantee you that it was the pizza. I mean, not the bread, because your body probably needed the carbs, not the meat or cheese. I bet you it was the sauce. So I was like, tell you what, next time having a craving for a pizza, get a white one and tell me how you feel the next day. And so sure enough, he was just like, son of a bee. I was like, what? He was just like, you're absolutely right. Me and my girl got a white pizza, and I felt perfectly fine afterwards. And like, why the heck didn't you find this out and be able to tell me sooner because I could have been eating, pizza all this time. He had been avoiding it for a while because he just assumed that it was an unhealthy combo of stuff, and that wasn't the case at all. It was actually just the tomato sauce. So he, just like many other people, it's high in acidity. I don't know, but it just sucks because I always joke that I had an Italian stomach because pretty much all of my favorite dishes, are considered Italian. Spaghetti, meatballs, lasagna, all the stuff that's tomato sauce based. Were some of my favorite foods. So it's been an adjustment, but you know, you can definitely make a heck of a tasty white pizza. Not feel like, oh, I'm missing out just because of the tomato sauce. It's like, no, come on. You know what the good stuff is. The good stuff is the bread, the cheese, the toppings, the olive oil, the garlic. All that stuff is what's the real umami part of it. So umami is UMAMI, by the way. I hadn't heard that phrase before in a while. So basically, that's like the so you have the salty taste buds, the bitter taste buds. You have all those taste buds, but one that was overlooked because it was just kind of so obvious was the yummy, like brothy, like taste buds, and yeah, so it's called umami, UMAMI. But I thought I had to clarify that because anytime I say it out loud, it sounds like I'm saying umami, and I just no. I don't have this weird phrase that I suddenly throw out every once in a while that's umami. It's an actual thing. So, yeah. So, like I said, cooking for yourself, it tastes better. And again, I don't know. It's got to be both, right? I mean, there's got to be something um, mental about the fact that you were there for the whole process. It's something that you hand tossed yourself, which I finally started to get a little bit better about. That is actually making it circular when I hand toss it because that took a while. It always ended up like oblong for whatever reason, and then too thin in certain parts, and then you try to hand stretch it, and then now it's like tearing, and then you all right, just put it on the thing, and yeah. Um, so that's a lot of fun, but yeah, I think anything that you make from scratch, it's got to be a combo of both. You have super fresh ingredients. You're not putting in anything that you don't want. So, for instance, trying to cut down on a lot of salt. And once you start making your own things and you start going back to pre-made food or restaurant food, even, you realize that, oof, God, like they could probably cut out about half the salt and it would still taste delicious, but, wouldn't be killing you with sodium. So it's got to be a combo of, it's all fresh ingredients, and it's the ones that you chose, but also the fact that you were there from start to finish. So you also feel mentally accomplished. So, you know, yeah. No, I'm making it official. I'm calling it right here and right now. It's both. So there. Uh, come at me. That's the hill I'm gonna die on. Is that it's both. I don't care who hears it. It's out in the ether now. It's public. I'm not cutting any of this out. Hey, I haven't had to say that in a while, so I guess that's good. That was probably going to be an annoying catchphrase after a while if I had to keep on saying, oh god, I screwed that part up. Well, no, it's staying in. It's all staying in. Not cutting any of this out. Although I do think I ended one of my other videos with that, or both of them. Or no, did I just end them all with the awkward looking for the button? Awkward pause while I try and find this thing to click off. I would just keep it hovering over the button, to be honest, but oh god, it upset me so bad. I did what I thought was a good half-hour version of the intro to animals video, and the I still keep on forgetting to make the screen just stay on permanently. So I had it hovering over the button, and then the screen started to dim. So I moved the mouse a little bit just so that it would stay on. Apparently, when I was moving it over it, I hit the stop button without realizing. So I move it, and then and this was 10 minutes in. I then proceeded to talk for another 20 straight minutes about Intro to Animals. I kind of peter off, and then I'm like, you know what? That's gonna be enough for now. I'll get into more deep dives later on. And then I go to hit stop, and then it does a countdown: 3, 2, 1, and go. And I was like, oh my god, how long was I talking to a non-recording screen, and then I go back, and then I see, sure enough, I was talking for 30 minutes. It only got about 9.5. And so, ooh, that, and then if you go and you actually check out my intro to Small Animals, I think that it's like maybe 20 something minutes. I couldn't get back to another half hour because I was just so done with the fact that I had just wasted that much of my life to, well, I mean, maybe it made for better practice. I mean, it definitely doesn't end with as much of petering off and ums and ahs as the initial 30-minute one was. You know, maybe that's what I cut out. I cut out all the ums and ahs. Now, there's still a lot, let's be honest. I rewatched that the other day. It's still a lot. Um, there's another I'm going to try and catch myself whenever I do that. Maybe a game I can play during these early videos is every or ah that I do, I put a tick mark down, and then at the end of the video, I look down at the tick mark and just shame myself. Ain't nothing wrong with a little self shaming, both for comedy and for self improvement, to be honest. So yeah, so for that reason, I don't have the cursor over the stop button anymore. So at the end of every video, until I start deciding to edit it, you're gonna see me go, all right, and then click. So I'm just gonna have that be part of my thing for now. I don't know. I don't know if it adds any humor. Or, that's actually a really loud crinkle. I'll stop doing that. So I don't know if that adds any humor or any consistency to the thing, but yeah, that's what I'm gonna do for right now, just so that I don't accidentally hit that button again. And I hope that my frustration didn't show. When I was rewatching it, I don't know if maybe it was a little low energy. Maybe I was talking a little quiet. I hope that wasn't because of my frustration with accidentally hitting that button. But hey, it's a learning curve. I mean, hopefully it made for haha, you stupid. Hopefully it made for a funny story after the fact. So, but yeah, honestly, that's. Oh, okay. So that one, yeah, might as well tell you a little behind the scenes while I got you, right? So that one, I had that go, but that wasn't even the most frustrating one. I'm pretty sure it was my dog training video that I had to restart at least COVID, at least 10 different times. And it was like for 10 different reasons. One of them was that I can't help myself. I was a dog trainer for far too long. When I started talking about all the initial problems that you might run into by being a new dog owner, I started at um, getting a puppy, and then I realized that I was basically just going into my dog training routine, which I am trying to avoid while I work for a pet store so that I don't, get in trouble for basically becoming the competition. But I do definitely want to do some dog training tips at some point. But I realized that I had just immediately devolved into my dog training mode where I'd be like, so here's an issue. And without even thinking, I was like, oh, and here's a way that you can deal with that. And then I'd be like, and here's another issue. Oh, and then here's the tips and tricks on how to deal with that. It's sickening how long. I think it took me like 20 minutes to realize that I was just like, oh, wait. No, that's not what you're supposed to be doing here at all. You're supposed to be saving the training stuff for later. This is literally just supposed to be an intro to dogs. Like, here's how crazy involved it gets. I'm going to try and scare you away from owning one because it should not be an impulse purchase. So that was one of them. So that was 20 minutes wasted on one of them because I, was just going right back into my old dog training routine. I like that I still got it. Um, that's one thing I never mind talking shop about is, if a friend or family or, even a customer or just a random person, at a party finds out that I'm a dog trainer and they're just like, hey, my dog keeps doing yada, yada, yada. You get any advice for that? It's like, I, I imagine that there's certain professions and there's certain professions and even certain levels of fame where you're just like, ugh, this again. Can't I just be me and kind of anonymous, for a quick drink at a party without having to either answer a job related question or no, even with the fame thing, yeah, job related question basically. So I don't think I've ever felt that way. I've never been like, ugh, here come the dog training questions. I always have loved talking shop, and hey, if they go home and now they're not getting as short with their dog because they realize, oh, that's why you're doing it, and here's something I can do to help it. You know, there's few better feelings. There's a lot of way better feelings, but that's definitely one that's up there that that I do miss. So yeah, so that was one of them. Another one was a call from my current work. Um, another one was I can't remember. I don't remember. Some of them it was just because I started off kind of awkwardly, where I was just like, "Hey, okay," I waited way too long, and then I would start over. Or but yeah, so for some reason that one having to restart that one after talking about dog training for 20 minutes wasn't as frustrating as the button incident, and I think that's just because I like talking about dog training. So the fact that I went off on a 20-minute rant that I shouldn't have, and so I had to start the video over and kind of take it in a different direction, wasn't as annoying as me literally talking to dead space because my fat finger hit a button. um, yeah, isn't that funny that I had less frustration with doing a video 10 times and wasting more than 20 minutes of my life, but it wasn't as frustrating as accidentally thumbing a button. Anyway, so, you know, little little roadblocks, that have been popping up so far, but nothing too horrible. I'm definitely feeling a lot better now that I've started. By the way, all of these are pre-recorded. I'm not sure when they're actually going to come out because I want to make sure that I have a few already in the bag before I start putting them out because I know a big thing with me as a viewer and just from some of the websites I've looked at, a huge thing for viewers in general is that you're consistent with your podcasts. If say you're going to be putting them out every week and then you skip a week, believe me, if you have a fan that checks in on you, they're going to notice. I as a fan, I'm understanding. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Kind of waiting here. And then they pop up a week later saying, "Sorry, had to quarantine because of COVID or something." And it's just like, oh, understandable. Life happens. Um, for instance, going back to the whole frozen Texas thing. Yeah, I was just like, God, it feels like I haven't. Usually Rogan's putting out 3 videos a week. How come I haven't heard from him? And I was just like, oh, because he probably doesn't have any power, rolling blackouts. He's in Texas now. He's dealing with all the stuff that other Texans are. So we might not get any until that whole thing gets resolved. So, it's like so funny me getting all indignant where it's just like, where's the podcast? Yeah. And it's like, oh well, maybe he has a life going on. But that's why it's a good idea, to um, pre-record unless you're like a current events kind of thing. And in that case, you just have to find out your own way of keeping stuff tight. And short so that way you can put it out when it comes out. But this is all old news stuff. Like this isn't timely. I mean, unless you just happen to tune in like literally weeks after you already made a mistake that I told you to avoid. And that's nothing I'm going to be able to help whether I put that out this week or next week. So I think I'd rather just have a good minimum 6 episodes, so that'd be 2 weeks worth in the bag before um, starting up because once I start, I don't want to miss a week if at all possible. And I'm trying to do the monumental task of doing 3 episodes a week. And I'm a little worried, but I was kind of happy with myself because I remember bitching about being about B wording about the uh, first time I did 10 minutes and it felt like an hour. And then I ranted and rambled and raved. And what's funny is that this program I'm using doesn't show me how long I have been recording for, but dumbass, there's a clock right in the bottom corner. If you just pay attention when you push start, then you can kind of figure it out. Dumb A, I mean. So I was actually really happy that just by pure instinct alone, when I looked at how long my first introductory video was, it was the hour that I was originally shooting for, and it was like what it was an hour and then a couple seconds. So I was like, woohoo, hey, I hit it. And even now with this one, it's both harder and easier than I realized to be able to fill an hour of just junk talk and trash talking, especially when you're not a huge sports fan or you don't really follow the news that much. So, if you're having just a regular day to day, go in, go out, you're not going to get into the specifics of work. How are you supposed to fill an hour? Well, pretty easily, in fact. It's you just you rant to yourself already in your head. Now just do it out loud. Just do a stream of consciousness, as it were, and just do it to a camera. It's not that difficult, dude. But it kind of is. If I had like I said, if I paid a little bit more attention to what's going on in the world, or had more of a life outside of work, home, and supermarket, um, that I cared to share, then that'd be different. But you know, I don't do too many winter activities. Except my girl's trying to get me into snowshoeing, so that's one. I don't know what the situation is with the ski resorts and stuff. Like, I wonder. I wonder if they're open and they're just doing. I mean, because those ski chairs are already naturally 6 feet away from each other. I bet you. I bet you they're still probably able to do their thing. Yeah, yeah. I used to be a big skier. I only tried snowboarding once because I really should have gotten a lesson, but instead, I just strapped one to my feet and fell down enough times that pretty soon my butt, knees, elbows, wrists were just super sore. I was like, I can get by well enough on skis. I'll just do that. But yeah, I haven't been skiing for well over a decade, which is a bummer. And I'm not sure why. I mean, yeah, sure, 5 of those years I was in the desert, but it's I don't know. Yeah, I definitely do a lot more summer activities, that's for sure. But wow, hadn't thought about that in forever. I should really see if I still have my ski legs. Haha, I guess you could call it. Um, oh man, there's no greater feeling than being cold and then getting toasty afterwards. Like it's so much more satisfying than just having been warm. Especially when it's like that uh, exertion, sweaty, and then the sweat starts to dry. So the cold air plus the sweat drying, and then you go into a overheated, lodge or whatever, and yeah, you just feel your skin prickle. That's so much better than just having been warm the entire time. I don't know. That part I do miss. I don't really care for. I think one thing that I always get jealous about with the snowboarders is, yeah, it sucks that your feet are strapped into there, but the boots are so much more comfortable. Those plastic ridiculous boots that keep your feet slightly bent were always my least favorite part about skiing. But I did like the fact that the skis detached when you went flying, whereas a snowboarder kind of stuck attached to that thing. I'm pretty sure. Maybe that's changed. Maybe that they do have an unlock feature that I'm not aware of. But as far as I knew, you strapped into the board and you were pretty much attached to it. Whereas the skis, they always had the weird tension fit thing, so that yeah, so that it doesn't basically turn your leg into a helicopter that flies off. Oof, God, that'd be crazy. But I should probably let you guys go soon. Time has no meaning when you're making a video because you could literally be watching this at 3 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. Who knows? But in real world time, it's getting on into the night. I should probably start prepping for doing dinner and stuff. But yeah, like I said, homemade pizza. It's gonna be so good. Um, oh yeah, so the first of all, with the diet, it isn't like you can't ever eat food that you're reactive to ever again. It's like no, I mean that's why diets don't work. Is if literally every diet is a caloric deficit. I think I'm saying that right. So you reduce the calories that you eat. This is kind of like that, but not really. Um, is more trying to keep away from the foods that make you get inflamed and then retain water weight and all that stuff. Um, but yeah, so a lot of the foods that um, we did like that were had pre-made ingredients, we've managed to find workarounds to. So one of them is one of my favorite things is Mexican dip, or I don't know. There's probably a different name for it and probably different versions, but the version that I was raised on is that you get the shredded Mexican cheese, and I don't know when you're watching this, but that's literally what it says on the package in this store. I think they could do better, but so the shredded Mexican cheese, and then you would have Hormel's chili, and then you would have cream cheese, and throw that on a chip. It's a pretty good dip, but um, the cheese, the cream cheese, and the um, Mexican cheese, we thankfully were not too bad with. Some people don't do as well with cow's milk as they do goat's milk. I still can't stand goat's milk, but the goat cheeses actually are quite flavorful. And not just the one that look like the soft mozzarella, but also the ones that have there's goat, cheddar, goat feta. Anyway, it tastes pretty similar. But thankfully we do all right with the cheese. It was just the can of Hormel chili. The sodium content in that thing was through the roof, and so what she does instead is some chicken burger with different spices, and then a non-tomato based salsa. And so she kind of makes her own concoction that way, and has that as the middle layer. And so we actually do fine on that one, and it is tasty, tasty. Um, I don't know. She has the spices written down somewhere, but it's just a nice blend of anti-inflammatory spices, but they're also like pretty yummy and you know not too much heat, but enough spice that you're just like, okay, well, it has some kick to it, but it's not gonna burn and linger and hurt out the other end. But yeah, so doing stuff like that has been fun too. Like so, for instance, homemade mac and cheese was a big one. Since it's getting close to dinner time, basically the whole second half of this is going to be food. Sorry, guys. Started with food and it's going to end with food. That's going to be the theme of this one. Is going to be food. But yeah, I was raised on my mom's homemade recipe of mac and cheese from scratch. So you just make your roux, and then you add cheddar to it. Cook up some noodles, throw it in the pan. Throw some of the breadcrumbs on top. Stick it in the oven. Bada bang, bada boom. Nice and simple, but really umami. There's that word again, umami. And so a low reaction one to that, exact same recipe, only just now you're still doing the roux, but you're mixing in goat cheese. You're using rice pasta. So rice is typically a starch carbohydrates. So rice is typically a carb that most people do really well with. So if you don't want to cut noodles out of your diet, oftentimes you can find a rice pasta that can be pretty similar. So you do the goat cheese roux, and then believe it or not, too much bread can kind of say, well, all right. So that's one that people at least knew. Like that one wasn't a surprise. But she can't do too many pieces of bread in a day. I don't seem to be too bad, but probably the least reactive bread, at least for her, is rye. So if you get some rye crackers, you break those up, you add some Italian seasoning, you can use those as low reactive breadcrumbs. So you have goat cheese with the roux, the rice pasta, and then the rye cracker crumbs. And yeah, it's good. I mean, it can be just as cheesy, just as tasty. Um, Man, but she came up with one. I've never thought of a spicy mac and cheese being good. Usually, when I think mac and cheese, it's just like all I want is that umami flavor to it. You know, um, I remember, when my mom used to make it, she would play around with it. Like at one point, she put in some linguiça mixed in. It's kind of a kind of spicy meat. Like think like kind of like pepperoni, kind of like kielbasa, linguiça. Um, sure some of you heard it, and the other half are going, "What the?" All right, but anyway, so she tried mixing some spicy meat to it, and it was all right. But I was just like, yeah, it's good, but I would have preferred, having a bite of the mac and cheese, and then having a bite of the meat, and then having a bite of the mac and cheese, having a bite of the meat. So for some reason, I just always associated that with like, well, no, I would never like a spicy type of mac and cheese, and so yeah, she made one, knocked it out of the park. I think I might see. I don't want to say that I like it better than the homemade one that I grew up on because that obviously has so much nostalgia attached to it. There's always certain smells and smells and tastes and sights and sounds to a lesser degree, but I know that smell is the most closely tied one to memory. So um, you're never going to be able to really beat a nostalgic taste. So even though I don't really like sodium, and I know it's completely horrible for me, I mean for some reason a box of Kraft mac and cheese still tastes pretty darn good. But yeah, so having said that, I wouldn't say that I prefer hers to mine, but they're both pretty darn tasty mac and cheeses. And yeah, the best part is they're both pretty low reactive. You just don't want to carb up too often, or I guess have certain meats too many times in a row. Chicken's never going to be too bad for you, but if you have like three steak dinners in a 3 consecutive days, it's probably not going to be too good on the scale. But oh, speaking of scale, so that scale has always been an issue as far as like okay, there's a number on there. I don't like that number. I'd like to be a lesser number. So I heard of two awesome things that if you're a person that weighs yourself and you just and you hate going through the process because you just don't like seeing what that number is. Here's something, two different techniques that you could use that might actually work better. This is so smart. So, all right, if you have, say, a digital scale and you have the option to either put it into pounds or kilograms, and say you grow up in an area where you're used to pounds, you can convert it to kilograms and then just keep an eye. Now the numbers are meaningless to you. You don't know what the heck the kilograms means. So now all you just need to worry about is how much up or down it went. And so as you see the numbers change, you're feeling better where it's just like, I'm going down, I'm going down. I don't care what the actual weight is. I just care that I'm, losing it. Similar to this guy did a study. So they must make them. If he just did a study and then he destroyed the prototypes, then this guy's an idiot. But this guy did a study where he had test group weigh themselves with regular scales, and then he had another test group weigh themselves with these ones that he made where it just recorded what you were the previous day, and then it told you the difference. So, for instance, day one you step on it, it's 0. So then day two, if you lost a pound, you're -1. Day three, if you gain 2 pounds, now you're at a 1. And so it just tells you literally how much you weigh compared to the day before. I believe is how it went. And so apparently the people in the control group lost far less weight than the people that just were able to track what the difference was. It doesn't matter what that stupid number is. There's so much stigma attached to the number. I thought both of those solutions were brilliant. You either put it into a set of measurement that you don't even know. So it's like, well, screw trying to convert that into what it might mean in pounds. All right, it was, this many kilograms, before, and now it's this many. So that means that I went down. I don't even know how much I went down, but I just know that I went down from yesterday. Awesome. Let's keep it going. So I think both of those solutions are pretty brilliant because, yeah, for some reason there's this stigma when it comes to it's like, because you're also weighing it against like childhood weights, you know famous actors and actresses weights. I mean um, or maybe famous actresses and famous but yeah, basically like there's a lot about the number where it's unfair because everybody's different. So even having the BMI is a little bit weird, where it's just like, okay, just because I'm this certain height, I should be this certain weight. It's like, dude, I think I have narrow shoulders compared to like somebody else who's going to be like a little bit wider in general. Doesn't mean wider, just means wider. So that we're supposed to both weigh the same amount. That just doesn't make any sense. So I really like that. If you're out there and you're trying to do some weight loss and you're having trouble with the numbers, man, I'm telling you, that's something to look into. Um, yeah, not a bad place to end. I think you get some stuff to think about, and I get some cooking to do, and yeah, sorry this ended up being a pretty food heavy episode, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, hey, if anything, now you know a little bit more about what's been going on in my life, and also I just got you hungry for dinner. So, all right, looking for the button.